Hello everyone. Today I would like to share with you why you should have Gaura in your garden. It's a fantastic plant to have. So before we get started with the rest of the video, I just want to let you know that I am not affiliated with any plant company. I am making this video because I want to share this information about this fantastic plant with you. If you have not grown it, or you were thinking about growing it, or you're just not familiar with this plant. So let's go ahead and get started. So first we're going to go over the overview of the plant, and then we'll move into my experience with the plant, including sharing with you the pros and the cons, and then we'll end with a conclusion. I have two varieties of Gaura in my garden here, the white and the pink. The white is called Graceful White Gaura. It's a Monrovia company plant. The pink, I believe it was just called Pink Gaura, and I do not remember the company that it came from. Now let's do an overview. This plant's USDA zones are 6 to 9. According to Monrovia, it can go down to anywhere between 0 to -10 degrees Fahrenheit. It prefers full sun. It has low water requirements once it is established. It has a clumping or mounding habit. And according to my experience, or based on my experience, it's not location specific. I've grown it in various locations. Although Monrovia advertises it that it does well in a rock garden or in a container. And finally, it is a spring and summer bloomer, according to my experience here. But Monrovia advertises it as a summer bloomer. Let's look at the blooms closely. They look like floating or flying butterflies, especially when the whole plant just sways back and forth. It's just spectacular. And I forgot to mention that the foliage is small and slender. Like you barely see them. All you see are these spikes. All right, let's give you an overview of this plant. So where I have most of the plants are at this slope garden, and I have 4 over here. I have 1 here that is hugging the white salvia here. That's 5. This is 6 right here. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have 11 white Gaura over here. This is the most that I have of the Gaura over here. I have 6 throughout the various locations. As far as the pink goes, I have 1 right here. I have 2 up there. And this is a mystery one. I do not know what that is. It looks like it's a white one, but I could be wrong. So here's a surprising thing. I always thought that these Gauras were spring blooming Gauras, because I've always had blooms in the spring. And I've grown Gauras since 2022, so this is their 3rd season in my garden. So this year, just a few days ago, I got a new flush of blooms, of the white blooms, and I was so ecstatic because, as mentioned, I've only seen the blooms, like very prolific blooms, in the spring, not the summer like this. So this is the first summer that I've experienced, especially in August. It's kind of late. According to my experience, to have these blooms just so beautiful right now. Now, we had a bad storm last night, and I'm pretty sure the storm has taken some of the blooms away. I'll show you a video of it before the storm came, and so you can see there were so many more blooms than shown here. So I was just so surprised. I was so happy to see these blooms because just several days ago, these blooms were not here. So, and that's why I'm saying that this is a spring and summer blooming Gauras. However, the pink ones are not doing as good. They're showing blooms here and there, just like the white ones in the past. So that's why I always, again, equated them as being spring bloomers and not summer bloomers. So before, the white gars would look like the pink gars now, just blooms here and there, but the whole plant would not be covered with blooms. And same thing with this one right here, just blooms here and there like this. Now this pink one was blooming so much in June. This is the only pink one that was blooming a lot versus all the other ones that I have. So based on my experience here in this garden, whether they are growing on a slope or on a flat surface, they all seem to do well, except the ones in the containers. And I think it's because of me. Maybe the soil I have in the containers are not what they want, so they don't perform as well. But the ones in the ground, they're in clay soil versus, you know, the potting soil. And I usually use Miracle-Gro mixed with soil conditioner with all of my container plants. And they do well, but not as well as the ones that are in the ground. So because of that, I tend to like to grow them in the ground versus in containers. Let me show you the sky. It says we're going to be getting another thunderstorm very soon, all the way up to 10 p.m. today. So it is changing very quickly. Now let's go over the pros of this plant. It is a very drought tolerant plant once it is established. And it is very true. I really don't need to do much to these plants except to just, you know, make sure that they are getting their water in the beginning. Then after that, they kind of like figure everything out for themselves. That means it makes them very low maintenance. Then the other pros is that it is fast growing, and let me show you. So most of these plants here were self-seeders. That was a self-seeder, so they all came up. I just, all I had to do was just move them to where I want them to be. And I believe this one was from last year, and so is this one right here. This was from last year also. So these two are the biggest, but all the other ones, they're not as bad. So they grow pretty wide in just one season. This was from this season as well. So you can see in one season it can go from a little nub all the way to a mature big plant. Same thing with those guys. Those were all transplanted when they were babies. Same as this one and this one. And while we're here, I love the fact that one of the pros is that it has a clumping habit or a mounding habit, which makes it easy, you know, to divide, and it doesn't spread on you like if a plant has a rhizome. So the tag says it's a compact mounding foliage. So I'm gonna call that, so it is has a mounding habit. But yes, mounding, compact, clumping, I think they're all the same thing. So mounding habit, and which is nice. If you're like me, I like plants that has a mounding, clumping habit instead of having runners or rhizomes or anything like that that could get out of control. And like mentioned earlier, typically I think this is a spring blooming plant, but this year it is also doing so well as a summer bloomer as well. So I'm fortunate to have experienced this year. It's been awesome. So except for the pink Gauras, the white ones are definitely a summer blooming plant as well. So lastly, if you love pollinators, you will love this plant too, because this plant attracts a lot of bees. This year I've seen different kinds of bees. Usually in the past I've seen more bumblebees, but this year I think I've seen, I don't know if they're honeybees or carpenter bees. I'm not a bee expert, so I am not sure, but it is well loved by pollinators, specifically the bees. So I read somewhere that it attracts hummingbirds and butterflies. In my garden here, I have not seen much activities from the hummingbird and the butterfly, so I am not sure about that. Maybe it attracts those two wildlife somewhere else, in someone else's garden, but definitely not here. So strangely enough, usually I see lots of pollinators here, specifically the bees. I've seen them earlier today, but I don't know if they know a storm is coming. But I am walking around here. Usually it's buzzing with bees, but I do not see or hear anything. So it's as if they know a storm is coming, which is so surprising to me. I'm just going around, just looking for any sign of a bee, but no sign of any wildlife right now, except maybe those small bugs that I'm not able to see. So interesting. They know that a storm is coming better than we do. Oh my goodness, it's getting dark soon. So let's go over the cons. So the first con is that the stems could be fragile, and you could see it right there. So we had a storm, as mentioned, last night, and it took out one of the stems here. So the stems could be fragile. So here's the thing too. So the stems are fragile now when they're growing, but during the winter when they're not actively growing, the stems become wiry and tough. With my experience here, I had a harder time pruning them off with the pruner when they are nice and tough. So they start off with like light brown, they turn darker and darker brown, and then they just kind of get hard. They become harder to prune off, and they get pretty tough. So that's something to note. So this year what I'm going to do is I'm going to prune them off fairly quickly, sooner than later than I normally do. The other con is that they are susceptible to leaf spots, and it could be due to a number of things. I'm not sure why they get leaf spots. It could be the climate here, it could be a number of things. But because the leaves are very small, they're not very noticeable, and they are something that would not prevent me from having this plant, because the blooms far outweigh the damage on the leaves, because what you tend to see are these spikes, and the beautiful blooms, they just take over the plant, and again, you really don't see the foliage all that much. So another con for this plant is that it may be hard to divide and transplant based on my experience. So if you would like to divide these plants, I would recommend doing it in the spring when there is no more sign of a freeze or a frost, and then just kind of monitor that plant very carefully, or the divided plants, making sure that they are getting the water that they need, and then they should do fine. But just expect at least 1/3 of the ones that you divided to not make it, which has happened in my case. So the last con is that this plant can reseed itself. So I started off with 3 white Gauras and I have a total of 18 right now. So each year I get, a few of them that would come up, and if you don't like them, you can just take them out. They're very easy to pull, and if you like them, make sure that you take care of them, transplant them to a spot that you think that you would like them to be, and just take care of them, and they should do fine. And I'm hearing thunder right now. The pink Gaura, on the other hand, has been harder for me to grow. So I know that I bought at least one. I only have 3 here, and I may have bought 1 more or 2 more, but they have not done well with transplanting or through division, being able to grow in general. In conclusion, if you live in zone 6 and 9 and you would like to have a drought tolerant plant that is also low maintenance, that attracts pollinators, that has long lasting blooms, and that has pros far outweigh the cons, I would highly recommend the Gaura to you. So with that, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it enjoyable and helpful. And until my next video, take care and bye for now.
It's me, the Mario. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any more content.